Hi guys, welcome back for episode number 43 of the weekly playback. Again, I apologize for the air conditioner. It is quite hot today, but we are going into September soon, so you know, you'll just have to put up with it for a little while longer. Okay, so I got to play one new game over the last week, and then a couple I've played before. So the first game I will talk about is Monsters on Board. So Monsters on Board is a 2022 game. It is for 1 to 4 players, designed by Alexander Mikic, Ivo Neskovic, and Samuel Petreski. And the artist is the Micho, and it is published by Final Frontier Games. Now this is a dice rolling, dice drafting, pattern kind of building game. And there are like end game bonuses and stuff too. So the way I would describe this game, if I sit on my leg, then I look really tall and my head is towards the top of the screen, so maybe I'll just come back down. Okay, so the way I would describe this game is as a roll and write in the form of a board game without the writing. Like, it is so freaking combo-tastic. Like, it really is like a roll and write where you're rolling dice, you're placing things around the board, you're triggering more and more actions, like you can chain a lot of actions. So it was very much, it reminded me a lot of the flip and write game called Flip Town, which was on Kickstarter like a couple of months ago, and I had played it. I had played a print at home version of it, which was super combo-tastic. Also, if you've played games like Fleet the Dice game, which is also very combo-tastic, it's very much like that. So it's like a roll and write, but without the writing, but just like moving stuff around on a board. So you do have to keep track of a lot of your actions because you can lose track easily. So that's why it's really important when you use a die, you make sure that you've done everything with that die first before you then use another. And that's why, well, I'll get into how it plays in a minute. So, and then I'll explain that part. So there are a lot of components which did not fit into this box. So I actually need to use the expansion box to hold some of the base game components and vice versa, because I have my cars in here. So let me just pull out the cars. So here is an example of a car. This is from the deluxe edition, mind you. Okay, so the board, oh, this wire is stuck in here, sorry, 1 second. Okay, so you are going to have one main board, and on this board, underneath it, you're gonna have some monster cards, and above it, you're gonna have ghost tokens, and then you'll have some piles of ghost tokens face down. And then, of course, you have your score tracker, which I'm not a fan of at all. I don't like this kind of score tracker where you have like 1s on one side and then the 10s on the other, especially when for the deluxe version, the score trackers are so big that they like move around very easily and push others away. And it's very easy to just really actually lose track of your score using that. So I would recommend some other way to keep score, to be honest. An individual player board looks like this. So this is, let me just figure out how to open it. Okay, this is an individual player board. So you're gonna have some grunts, which I will pull out in a minute so you can see them. And your grunts start over here, and they're just going to move along through these like different like neighborhoods or whatever, and you're trying to get them in the end spot to score points at the end of the game for the grunts. You're gonna have some minions. I'll show you all the components in a minute. You're going to be drafting dice and placing the dice up here. So how it works is at the beginning of each round, so there are 6 rounds in total, each player is going to draft 4 dice from this bag, not draft, just randomly pick rather. So you're just going to randomly pick 4 dice. You're going to roll them and then put them in your car with the numbers that came up. Then after everyone has done that, so this game you're doing a lot of stuff simultaneously. So after everyone has picked 4 dice and rolled them and placed them into their car, you are going to then draft one and then pass the car to the left until everyone has drafted a total of 4 dice. Then you are going to place your dice up here. Oh, someone's calling me. Let me just hit that. Okay, I should have put my phone on airplane mode. Okay, so you are going to put the dice that you drafted up at top over here. And this is where you need to remember that the numbers and icons on the dice do not matter for grunt movement. So every player starts the game with 6 grunts, 1 of each color. like these. And so you're going to look at which dice you have, and for each grunt you have of that color, you're going to move your grunt one space. If your grunt ever lands on an action, you'll get to do that action. If it lands on a blank space, then there's nothing you can do. So this is where chaining starts to happen, because like you might be able to, if you land on like a space here that allows you to move your, I don't remember what it's called, but there's like these trackers that allow you to move up, and they will trigger some other actions. So this will, you'll have 3 of these, and they will start, like, actually I'll show you this way. So again, deluxe version. So you're going to have 3 of these thingies, and they're going to be moving along underneath, and they will also trigger some actions. So yeah, so this is where, you know, a lot of chaining starts to happen. So you're going to be moving your grunts, and you want to try to get your grunts to the end, because once your grunt is at the end in final game scoring, for each grunt you have, you will multiply of a certain color. You take it, you multiply it by 3 because it's worth 3 points, times the number of dice you have of that color in your order of the spider jack or whatever it's called. So you're going to, after you use the dice up here and move your grunts one space for each grunt, you know, of that color, then you're going to take 3 of them and put them down here. So you're going to have some spider jack dice. This would be really great if I had this all flat to show you guys. So your spider jack dice are always going to start at 2, and you want to get these spider jack dice to all be 6s by the end, because you are going to be populating this area with the dice, and at the end of the game you are going to look at the value of your spider jack dice, these ones, and whichever dice are beyond the number that you have your spider jack dice on, they will get discarded and they don't count for final scoring. So like, let's suppose I had this at 4, then I would only be able to count the first 4 dice for end of game scoring, and the last 2, if I had 2 dice there, would be removed. So you want to try to get all of your spider jack dice to 6, and there are actions that allow you to do that. So you're going to move 3 dice down here, and it always has to go into the leftmost spot, the leftmost empty spot of a row. But you know, you can use 1 row, whatever, you can allocate them as you wish. Then the remaining dice is going to be placed over here, and you'll get to gain some malice that way. Malice is what you're going to be using to buy certain cards or ghost tokens. So the ghost tokens that I mentioned, that will be up here. So ghost tokens, when you buy them, they get placed on a matching space of their color, and they will give you an extra action. And it's also a way to earn extra grunts. So if you get the ghost token that gives you an extra grunt, there are only 2 grunts of each color available for the extras. Then you just take the grunt and then you remove it, and you put the grunt on like a starting grunt spot. You can only get a maximum of 3 extra grunts, if I remember correctly, at a time. I don't know if that's total actually. So yeah, so you know, you want to try to get extra grunts if you can, but you know, again, you don't know which ghost tokens are going to come up. That's kind of just all luck. So here, let me just show you an example of some ghost tokens. So yeah, so here, oh, here happens to be, that's a foot, so that would allow you some grunt movement. Here is actually a grunt, so if you bought this one, you would actually get to take a blue grunt. So yeah, so those are the ghost tokens, and they will go on various village spots. And again, they go on the matching color. And grunts can land on ghosts, but minions cannot land on ghosts. So you have minions as well. So each player starts the game with a certain number of minions. I don't know which bag I was using, but we'll go with this one. So minions, I believe you start the game with 6 minions. So 6 minions can move freely. So when you have the action that allows you to move a minion, you can move it to any empty spot. They cannot go on top of ghosts. They cannot go where there's already like a minion or a grunt, obviously. But minions are very helpful because you can have them take up the empty spaces that don't have actions on them. So if you get a die of that color and you're able to move your grunt, you can skip over that spot. So it will help you to get to the end quicker, which you definitely want to do, because there's only 6 rounds, and believe it or not, it's really hard to get your grunts into the final space. So yeah, it's a really cool combo-tastic dice rolling, dice drafting game, like definitely very combo-tastic. You know, I would recommend that when you play, you know, even though you can take all the actions simultaneously, I would recommend that for the first 2 rounds you you know, each player does their actions while everyone else is watching, just so they can get the hang of things. I think that might help. So anyway, the way the grunts move, they go this way, then this way, then this way. And these cards that you can buy, let me just show you some of the monster cards you can get. They give you end of game scoring abilities. And so, you know, there's a market available. You can see what the end of game scoring ability is. But if you don't want to use them during anyone's turn at any point in the game, you can discard a card you bought to take an action on the back, which is like just one of the basic actions. So the basic actions are that you can change the value of a Lord dice, and these are called Lord dice. And those are the ones that are going to be placed in the squares over here, which you'll be populating. Another action you can take is to move your tracker, that one thing I showed you, which, you know, as you move it, you'll be unlocking new actions. Another one is to move a minion. Another action is to add 1 to the value of your spider jack die, which you definitely want to do. Another is grunt movement. And when you do the grunt movement action, which shows a footprint, you get to move every grunt of the color that you chose if you're going to, you know, be able to choose which color you want to move for that action. And then finally, the last one is to change the position of 2 Lord dice. Now, the reason you might want to change the position of 2 Lord dice or add a value or subtract the value from a Lord die is because at the beginning of the game, each player is dealt an objective card. And these objective cards are really where the placement of your dice and the numbers on them come into play, because these objective cards will show you like what you want. So like, for example, this one, I'm not even sure I understand this one, but it looks like you need the dice of that color in those locations in order to get those points. This one says Lord dice columns alternate between odd and even ranks. So every single objective card will allow a person to get a maximum of 50 total points. So you might be able to score some columns and not others, but whichever ones you're able to score, you'll get points for. The one I had most recently when I played, because I played this game twice, I played it once at 2 players, which it was fine at 2 players even. And then I also played it at the maximum 4 players, and the one I had at the 4-player count I thought was really hard. It wanted each column to be dice of all a single color, which was really hard to achieve. So I only achieved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 6. I achieved 4 of the columns, and 2 of the columns I did not achieve. And in the last game I played, it was a 4-player game. Only me and one other person had our grunts reach the final spot. So I had 2 red grunts reach the final spot, and another person had 2 grunts reach a spot, and then the other 2 people did not have any grunts reach a spot, but it was someone who did not have any grunts reach the final spot who ended up winning. And they beat me by like, I think like at least 15 points, if I remember correctly. So they did pretty well. So getting your grunts into the final spot is not absolutely mandatory, but it definitely helps, because if you get multiple grunts in the final spot and you have multiple dice of that color, you're going to get mega points from that. So I would highly recommend that you try to get as many grunts as you can into that final spot if you have dice of that color, which will, you know, help you. But it is a super cool game. I really like it. As someone who likes roll and writes, like this is just like basically like a giant board game, roll and write game, but without the writing. So I really, really enjoy it, and I'm glad I backed it actually. I was a bit worried because I feel like I'm missing spider jack die. Oh well. I was a bit worried because someone had told me, who kind of had some inside knowledge about this game, that they were worried about the development of this game or whatever, but I think it's pretty good. I really, really like it, and so I'm happy with it. Oh, here's the last die. I have not played it solo, but I have a friend who's played it solo, and he said it works really well at solo as well. So yeah, so if you enjoy roll and writes, definitely check out this game. But again, there's no writing. And again, you know, my only gripes are that with the deluxe components, that of course not everything fits in the box. That's the first gripe. The second gripe is these topple over so easily. Like they just do not stay in their little circles. So you can see that there's in this board, there's like little circles here, and it's supposed to sit in that circle, and it just topples over all the freaking time. Like just impossible for it to stay there. So that's another gripe. And sometimes the dice can be hard to pull out of the cars, but that's not a huge issue. But really the main issues I feel like are the scoring track, which I don't like at all, and then that one marker toppling over a lot. So yeah, it's a really cool game, and I highly recommend it, actually. I really, really like it. And I feel like it's a game that I would definitely play during Halloween time because, of course, it's got monsters and stuff in it. So yeah, so this was the first game I played, and I'm glad I got to play it twice because that helps me to get to know a game better and see whether I really, really like it or not. And I really do like this game, so. And I would like to play with the expansion. So now that I've played this game twice, the base game, I would really like to play with the expansion next. So let me just put this away before I get out the next game. So if you backed this on Kickstarter, let me know if you played it yet and what you think of it. But yeah, it's really hard to fit stuff in the box. Like lid I know is not going to close properly right now, so that's going to suck. So let me see if I can get it in. Yeah, there's definitely lift going on here. But yeah, so that was Monsters on Board. Oh, and you know how I always say, like, sometimes I get tired of the Micho's artwork. In this game, I actually really like his artwork because it doesn't look like his typical other stuff, because it's monsters this time. So I'm actually really happy with the artwork in this game as well. I'm not a painter, so I don't know if I'll ever end up painting these, but I think they would look much better painted. Of course, there are the cardboard versions, but I didn't assemble those because, you know, with space, it's already hard enough to even fit these plastic ones. So I just didn't even bother punching out the cardboard ones because there's just a lack of space. Like, even this has lift. So I definitely need to keep 2 boxes. So yeah, so that was the first game I played, and I played it twice, and I really like it. So let's go on to the next game. So the next game I've played before, but I was really itching to play it again. So the last time I played it at a 3-player count, I believe, or 4 players. So I played this at a 2-player count a couple of days ago, and that is Tenpenny Parks. So this is a 2022 game. It's for 1 to 4 players, designed by Nate Linhart, and the art is done by Vincent Dutrait, and is published by Thunderworks Games. Now this is a worker placement, tile placement game, and I really, really like it. You know, the first time I played this, and when I talked about it in a video, I complained about the rounds just going by too quickly. The game just going by too quickly, and I still stand by that. I still think it goes by too quickly. But I let my opponent know that I feel that way, so he was able to plan his moves much more efficiently than me, and he really kicked my butt. Also, so, you know, I'll just explain the game a bit and then I'll go into it. So, each player is going to have a board, and you can choose which side you want. And on this board, you are going to place trees, and you're going to need to remove trees in order to put down attractions. Then this main board, so this main board, you are going to have this carousel. Oops, no, get back in there. You're going to have this carousel here. And around the carousel, you're going to have cards of a certain type of attraction placed. So all the purples will go together, all the blues, all the yellows, all the reds, all the greens, and browns. So like blues represents underwater kind of attractions. So they have an underwater theme, whereas purple is outer space. So I can just show you an example, just so you know what I mean. The nice thing about the cards is that it shows you what the shape looks like. So like, for example, here's a space one, and it shows you what that shape will look like, because when you buy an attraction, you're then going to place that attraction on your board, but you cannot have buildings placed adjacent to each other. So this is where this game is unlike other tile placement games, because you do not want adjacency. But you know, it's thematically correct, because when you go to an amusement park, you don't want one ride right next to another. I think that would be kind of dangerous. So yeah, so you're going to have this carousel, and it's going to give you either a discount or increase the cost of a card that you want to buy. And then there's also these action spots. So the arborist, so each player has 3 workers that they can use, and you can use, so you take turns placing a worker. An arborist will allow you to remove 2 trees from your board, which you need to do, so you can build attractions. The banker will allow you to take $2 from the bank. The realtor will allow you to buy an extension for $3 and place it next to your board, and you have to place the trees on it where required. And the contractor will allow you to get one of these tiny concession stands for free. And these can give you either income during the income phase or allow you to go up on these emotions tracks, which you want to do because these will give you, whoever is farthest along on one of these emotions tracks at the end of a round will get their choice of a bonus. So if you are farthest along on the thrill emotion track, you get to take either an extra worker for the following round, which is so freaking valuable, or a point. So you can move back. If you take the more valuable bonus, you have to move back your tracker one space. So my opponent got the worker for the entire game, and that helped him so much. Like, I always felt like I needed more actions, and him getting the worker every time just was a huge benefit to him. If you're the farthest along on the awe track, you can move back your marker one space and take the shovel, which will allow you to be the first player in the next round. Or you can, of course, get 1 point. And finally, the last one, if you're the farthest one along, you can move back your tracker one space and get $3 or 1 point. So if you are the starting player of the next round, you will be able to rotate this as you want, this carousel. So you will be able to rotate it. So if there's a card you have your eye on that you can see in the top pile and you want to buy that card, you can rotate this to then decrease the cost of that card. So you can put the -2 in front of that card by rotating it. But whoever is the first player has to rotate this during the cleanup phase. So basically the game plays this way. You are always going to have an income phase. At the beginning of the game, everyone will just collect $3. Then you take turns placing your workers and taking actions. So in the buying spots, you can only have 1 worker per location, but all the worker spots on the main board, the contractor, the arborist, the banker, and the realtor, you can have more than one worker there, of course. And then, so you take turns placing your workers, taking your actions. You're going to be like clearing off your board, trees off of your board, placing tiles that you buy, whatever. After everyone has done that, then there is the advertising phase. So each attraction has an advertising cost. This one is $2. And then if you decide to advertise during the advertising phase, you can collect the points. So there are point tokens that you'll be collecting to keep track of how many points you have. Then after the advertising phase is the bonus phase, where you're then going to check for the 3 different emotions tracks and see who is farthest along. Then you have cleanup, and then it's during cleanup that you take back your workers. The first player has to rotate the carousel. You can't remain in the same position. And then you place out more of these concession stands if you need to, because they don't get replenished if someone takes one of these. So let me just show you one. So again, they're just free when you take them, but they might give you money during the income phase or allow you to immediately go up on an emotion track when you place it. And they just help to fill up spaces on your board. And then of course you do income, and then you start the next round. So it goes by super quickly, because if you do not get the extra worker, you have just 3 actions per round. You have to think very carefully. It's really hard, I feel like, to earn money to buy these attractions, especially when they're so expensive, some of them, if they have the +2 in front of them. Also, each player will have 2 personal objective cards. So I just want to show those to you because I think you should see them. Okay, so let me find them. So here is an example of an objective card. So this one, I believe, was one I had. End the game with your emotion disc furthest along the awe track, and you will get 3 points at the end of the game if you do that. So end of game scoring. So each person has 2 objective cards that they're trying to meet. End of game scoring is this. So at the end of the game, you are basically going to do what you typically do. Then you will check for your goals and get 3 victory points for each goal you were able to complete. Then you get points for your attractions that you built. So all the attractions you built will earn you a certain number of victory points, so you'll get the victory points for that. Then emotions bonuses. So each player who ended above the 8th space on the emotions track will get 5 points for that emotion. Then attraction count bonus. If you have 6 or 7 attraction cards, you'll get 5 victory points. If you have 8 or more, you'll get 10 victory points, and then whoever has the most victory points will win. It's really hard to get even 6 attractions, I feel like. I ended the last game I played with 5, and the game before that, I think I also ended with 5. So it is really hard to get those bonuses. So I really think that the extra worker is like key to winning this game. So you need to get along the thrill track you know, and try to get that extra worker, because I really think it's super key in order to win this game. But I still love this game. I absolutely adore the artwork. I just seriously love the artwork in this game. I just think it's amazing. So I'll just show you guys some. So yeah, I really wanted to play it because it has like such a vintage feel to it, like in a vintage amusement park kind of feel to it. I feel like I just really, really like it because of the artwork and stuff. And of course the carousel, which is really nice. Oh, and the pieces, as I've mentioned before when I covered this game before in a video, the pieces are super duper chunky. Like the money is incredibly chunky. It's super nice money, and you could totally use this in another game that uses like American buckaroos, dollars. Super chunky money, like everything is super chunky, like even the point token pieces are really nice and chunky. So really great quality components. And here are just some of the attraction tiles. So it is a polyomino game, but the key to putting down your attractions is clearing up trees, because again, you can't have anything adjacent to each other. So, you know, I would have already thrown up some pictures to show you, but yeah, you cannot have any buildings adjacent to each other, but they can touch diagonally, and of course they can be adjacent to trees. So that was Tenpenny Parks. So let me know if you've played this game. I really like it. This is a game that would definitely stay in my collection, even though I feel like it could use a few more rounds, but it will stay in my collection. Maybe next time I'll house rule an extra round. But yeah, I don't know if the player who, you know, gets the extra worker every single time would want that. But yeah, so I really, really like this game. Oh, and just to show you some pieces, here are like what the workers look like and the 3 emotions trackers. And here are the trees. The trees are wooden. So yeah. All right. So next up, I played a game that I've also discussed twice before, I believe. It's Hidden Leaders. So Hidden Leaders is actually coming out with a new expansion on Kickstarter in October, I believe. So previously when I've played this game, I've only ever played it at 2 players. So finally I got to play a 5-player game of this, which I think was so important because it is a game for 2 to 6 players. So this is a 2022 game. It's designed by Andreas Mueller, Marcus Mueller, and Raphael Stocker, and the artist is Santoshi Matsura, and it's published by BFF Games, and I absolutely love the artwork in this game. So this is like kind of like a deduction hand management game, so I felt like it was really important to play it at 5 players because at 2 players I just think it kind of falls flat. So you're going to have a green token and a red, like a green and a red marker, and based on what your hidden identity is, so this one has blue and green hidden identities, so I'll just show you all the different cards. So each person is going to have 2 factions which they're associated with. So it's called Hidden Leaders because there are all these leader cards. So let me just show you some examples. So there's just a bunch of different cards. Oops, no, sorry, those are the actual leaders. Never mind, my bad. Not those, ignore those. Okay, so these are the cards, sorry. So here are like the cards that you can play, like heroes, sorry, not leaders, heroes. So these are heroes that you're basically recruiting and adding to your hero tribe or whatever. So you start the game, I believe, with 6 cards in hand or 5 cards. Well, you start the game with 3 cards because basically 1 card you're immediately going to put in the discard, the discard area, which is like called the wild campsite or something like that. And then you'll have 3 cards in hand and 1 card you're going to put face down, which is your hidden hero. So there's going to be some hidden heroes throughout the game, and the reason that you keep them hidden is because each card is associated with a certain faction. So the way that the game end triggers is, so what you do on your turn, sorry, I know I'm jumping around a lot, is you can either play a card from your hand into your hero's tribe in front of you, or you can discard as many cards as you want, or up to 3 cards, I think, which I think is all your cards. And then you can draw back up, and you always draw back up to 4, and then you discard 1 again. So, and that's what you can do. Oh, the wilderness, that's what it's called. So if you decide to play a card, you of course do the action on the bottom, and the action usually involves moving those 2 tokens I talked about. And the reason you want to move these tokens is because that's what will basically determine which faction is going to win. So the way the game end triggers is when a certain person immediately has the requisite number of heroes face up before them. Then you will check to see who won. So in a, let me just double check. So in a 5-player game, if the game end triggers once someone has 6 heroes face up in front of them. So you are trying to, so there's cards that will allow you to, you know, discard someone else's hero or move it to the graveyard. You know, there's ways you can mess with other people's heroes for sure. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of that going on in a multiplayer game because, you know, you're kind of keeping an eye on these tokens and seeing where they end up because you want to win. So once the game end has been triggered, you are going to see which faction won by checking for win conditions, and you always check them in this order. So first you're going to see if both the green and the red markers are on the dark area of the board. If they are, then the skull faction will win. If they aren't, then you go and check for the water tribe faction, whatever that's called. If they are on the same space or next to each other, then the blue faction will win. So you're going to check. If they're not, then you go and check and see if the red faction won. If the red is at least 2 steps ahead of the green, then they win. If they don't win, then you're finally going to check for the green one. The green has to be 2 steps ahead at least of the red one in order to win. And if they didn't win, then no one wins. So throughout the game, you're kind of keeping an eye on where these markers are on this board, and you're trying to get a sense of who is of which faction, you know, so you can kind of get a sense based on where they're trying to move these markers of who has what. And then if there's a tie, so in the game we played, there was a tie, there was actually a 3-way tie, then you look at the heroes you have in front of you as well as your hidden heroes. Whoever has the most heroes of the faction that won, they will win the tiebreaker. Alexa just repeated what I said. Okay, or Siri, was one or the other. Okay, so then you, stupid Siri just interrupted me and now I feel like I've lost my train of thought. Okay, so yeah, you're going to see, and then there are some more tiebreakers beyond that for you to see who won. So that's basically the gist of the game. It's like a hit and roll hand management game where you're moving things on this board. And yeah, it definitely plays better at more players. It's more fun at more players. And you can try to, you know, start to guess who someone is. I still haven't, so in my last video I did a whole thing about expansions, and I wasn't sure if I had played the expansion to this game, and now I remember that I have not because it's still sitting in plastic at the bottom. So I have not played with the expansion, the Queens and Friend expansion, so I don't know what that does. But yeah, but it's a fun game. You know, it's not like super heavy. It's kind of a light game. It's like kind of like a quick game. A good way to end the game night. And this is how I ended my game night the other night. So yeah. So I got to play Hidden Leaders again at 5 players. So I just really love the artwork in this game. So that was the last game I played. Well, actually, no, I did play one more game. I played a 2-player game of Kariba and lost very badly. I won't discuss it again because I've discussed it before, but maybe I'll link it below. But I was just very sad that I forgot to take this to Africa with me because it would have been the perfect game to play in Africa. Of course, I would have had to like teach my safari guides how to play or something since you can't play it solo. All right, so let's move on to games that I am backing on Kickstarter. So currently there is still just 2 games there. There is Primordial Secrets, which I'm backing at $1 because I'll be doing a production copy of that, and it's actually doing really well. So let's see what it's at. So it's got 5 days left and it's at $19,631 right now. So again, that's a deck building game. It's a really good deck building game with a lot of player interaction. And then the next thing I'm backing is my friend's RPG book, Stillfleet, which is doing very well. So that is at $28,541 and it's got 11 days to go. So I'm only backing at $1 just to show some support, but I'm not into RPGs, so but it looks really cool. Okay, games I'm calling, there are going to be a lot, but nothing I have that I'm mentioning today. So I guess, what do I do? Oh, games that I have received. So yes, I finally have something to show you guys. Okay, so first I want to show you guys Transcontinental, the Transcontinental. It's a game I backed on Kickstarter. So let me just pull up the information. It's a train game. I hope I'll get to play it tonight because I have a friend coming over for game night tonight, so I hope I'll get a chance to play it. So of course this is a 2022 game. It's for 1 to 4 players, designed by and illustrated by Glenn Dresser, published by Wheelhouse Games. So I actually just unboxed it yesterday. So in addition to the rulebook, it comes with a bunch of historical notes. I believe it's about a train line in Canada. There are some player screens, which I will show you. So this is what a player screen looks like. There's a lot of information on here. Even in the rulebook, there is a lot of information. So it's going to take a while to go through that rulebook, I think. Then here is like one small board. I don't know what it is, but it looks like there's a score tracker or something on top. Shore, shop, yard, line, I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. And then there's this thing, which is pretty, but I'm assuming it goes next to that. It's got like, I love like looking at the different seasons and stuff. Oh, it's just so pretty. It's so freaking pretty. And then I'll just show you an example of one player bag. So it comes with these cloth bags, and then inside the cloth bag, I put the smaller cubes into a plastic bag because you know, I like to overbag. And then there are some of these. The pieces are really nice. So there's like 3 of these and then 2 smaller ones of those. Then there's a bunch of buildings which you are going to be building, I think. They look like little houses or whatever. So each player gets like, I think like 12 or something of those. So that is what is in each player's component bag. Then there are, I think each player gets one of these. Again, I don't know how to play. I don't know how this works, but yeah. There are these, let me just show you the insert, actually, after I stick this back in. Here is the insert. The boards I just showed you went over here. Here are some cards, actually, not tiles. So I'll just show you some cards. Oh, those are upside down, my bad. Really nice artwork. I'm always impressed with designers who do their own artwork. Just really love it. It comes with some metal train, which I'm guessing is a first player marker. That would be my guess. And then it comes with some of these tiles, which I don't know what they are, but let me pull them out. So it comes with a bunch of these, and they're in different colors. So here's some pretty ones. Yeah. Sorry, let me get my fingers out of the way. Yeah, so it comes with those. And then what else? Let's see. Okay, and then it comes with some of these tiles, which are also pretty. Sorry if they're upside down. They might actually be upside down. I can't see. Okay. And then it comes with a bunch of these like smaller tiles, and I don't know what they are. I only pulled out a couple, but there's like a bunch of these small tiles too. So yeah, and it comes with these tokens. Again, don't know what they are yet, but it has these as well. So that is the Transcontinental. So yeah, I would really like to play this soon. I remember when Rado covered this game, he said it was really good. Like, so he gave it a lot of praise, you know, so I would like to try it out. So yeah. And if you put one of the bags here, then everything fits. Yeah. Alrighty, so that was the first game that arrived. And then the second one is a game I'm really excited arrived because it was a game that I had covered for Kickstarter, which I really, really liked. And that is called Thera. So Thera, let me just pull up the information for Thera. God, I'm really hot, sorry. Okay, Thera is a 2022 game for 1 to 4 players. It's designed by Zach Hoekstra, and the artist is Grzegorz Padrich, I think, and the publisher is L4 Studios. So this is a city building game, it's is it? And also like, yeah, a territory building game, a tile placement game. I'll be honest, I don't remember too much about how it plays. All I remember is when I played it, I really liked it, and I thought it had a very like classical Euro feel to it. So yeah, so it comes with both the rule book and also a learn to play guide, which is cool. And then there's no insert, and so I put all the tiles into like separate bags to try to make it seem a bit more organized. So I split them up by different components, like different kinds of tile types. Oops. So this is about a city that has a volcano eruption, and there's like going to be ash in the city, and you need to remove the ash in order to build. And you're building like different types of city tiles. So like here is like a fountain, for example, and you're basically collecting resources and you're managing the resources that you collect. It also has a rondel. So the main board has a rondel, which will determine like which actions you can take. So yeah, here's the board. And there's going to be some like marker moving around the rondel. And then each player's personal board, which I will show you, where you will be building your city. And again, you know, there's going to be ash all around, and you're trying to remove the ash and stuff like that. It's a really cool game. I really enjoyed it when I played it. So I was like really looking forward to getting the production copy of this, and it just arrived yesterday. So I haven't had a chance to play it, but maybe I'll play this tonight. Actually, it might be easier to play than the Transcontinental. So yeah, so super excited for this. It's, you know, got really nice components. Let me just show you some of the ash. So the ash is like actually plastic. And then the money is cardboard, and then of course the tiles are cardboard, like, and there's so many tiles, so like I have a bunch of these small bags that I've put them in. Then there's different kinds of cubes to represent the different kinds of resources, which I don't remember what all of them are. I only remember like water. I don't remember what the other resources are, but there's a bunch of those. I don't remember what these are. I'm guessing like score trackers. And then these are the markers that will be like moving on the board. And it also has some cards, so I can just show you some cards. And to be honest, I don't even remember how the cards come into play. Maybe the cards are for a solo mode, because I don't remember playing with cards. I just don't remember the cards at all. So maybe that's a solo mode thing. I don't remember. But yeah. So it's a really nice game, and I'm, you know, really happy to have it. I know it's like going to be a game that not many people have, because it was kind of a small Kickstarter and not a lot of people backed it, but it did get enough backing, of course, to fund, which I was really happy about, because I thought it was a pretty good game. So yeah. So that is Thera. I actually do have one more to show, but I'm probably going to return it. So oh gosh, this is going to topple over. So I went to Barnes & Noble, and I saw that they had some board games on sale, and I know I'm always complaining about how I have like no money, and this is why I have no money, because I just couldn't resist. so I ended up buying a board game because it was on sale, and then with my family's Barnes & Noble membership, it only came out to like $22, and I was like, oh, $22 for a board game, like that's not bad. So I ended up buying Galaxy Trucker, but I'm probably going to return it. It's still in shrink. So yeah, I think I'll just return this one. So probably shouldn't have bought it to begin with. But yeah, have you played Galaxy Trucker? Let me know. I've actually played his game Dungeon Pets. I believe it's the same designer, right? I believe he's the designer of Dungeon Pets, which I thought was a game I would love, and I did not love it at all. We didn't even finish playing it when we had played it. Yeah, it's the same designer. Yeah, so I had played that game with actually when Jesse and Jan from Quackalope, when we were all friends, and when they came over to my place in November of 2020, or was it 2021? No, 2020. It was November 2020, sorry. Time is just so blah. So yeah, it was November 2020 when they came over for my birthday weekend. We played Dungeon Pets, and we didn't even finish the game because none of us actually liked it. You know, maybe their opinions have changed on it, but I have no desire to play Dungeon Pets again. So maybe I should return Galaxy Trucker. But if you've played either, let me know what you think. What do you think of Galaxy Trucker if you've played it? So I think that's it. And I actually didn't get any questions from anyone. But I just wanted to talk about something yet again. I know I'm like a broken record, but you know, I saw someone had pointed out something that someone had posted on Twitter, of course, you know, board game Twitter. So someone, Suzanne, yet again, had posted something about, you know, how you should not, I'll post up the tweets here so you guys can see them. Let me see if I can actually bring them up, because it might be easier if I just read them for you guys. But again, it was tweets about, you know, don't back games from like crappy people, don't buy games from like shitty designers or publishers, you know, about inclusivity and all of that. So I'll just read you the tweets actually, 1 second. You know, and that's fine, you know, do what you want, you know, if you're going to not want to support certain publishers who you believe, you know, are not good people, then fine, that's great, but I think you should be consistent. So she said, reminder that you don't need that new game that's designed and or published by shitty people. Look, problematic elements exist in basically all media, and everyone's threshold on those elements differs. I just ask you to spend an extra minute considering how important it is to have a game when it funds people who are openly racist, misogynistic, anti-LGBTQIA+, etc. And maybe after thinking it through, you'll make the decision to buy the game. So be it. The consideration and conscious choice process is valuable for many reasons when it comes to making small impacts to evolve gaming to be more inclusive and awesome. And then she says, in parentheses, I'm not lecturing, this thread applies to me as much as anyone else who plays and or collects tabletop games. So, you know, on the one hand, she's saying everyone's threshold differs. Clearly, everyone's threshold differs. So I just don't understand how people can be judgmental of others and preach, you know, and try to, you know, preach to others, don't back a game or, you know, buy a game from this publisher or designer because X, Y, and Z, like maybe they, you know, messed up somehow and did something. You know, everyone messes up at some point in their life where they may do something which is either like tone deaf or just, you know, unconsciously racist or something like that. You know, it happens. But to, you know, the group that she's a part of, these people, they punish someone and then they never forgive that person, and you've seen that, you know, time and time again, where they just will not forgive someone, like AntLab Games. Like, you know, AntLab Games, they've held like a grudge against ever since they feel AntLab did something wrong years ago. I mean, it doesn't matter how many times someone apologizes, once they've decided you're canceled in their eyes, you're canceled. So, you know, again, everyone's threshold does differ, but if you're going to be someone who preaches to people about not backing games from certain publishers who are crappy, misogynistic, racist, whatever, then don't support, you know, your Zionist publisher friends, which these people all do. And again, you know, last year they made a huge fuss about, you know, me calling out Burnt Island Games / KTBG for being bigoted against me for, you know, my pro-Palestinian views, and then they all pretended to care about Palestine. But then this year, when all this fighting was again happening just a couple weeks ago, there was still, you know, there was a lot of escalation a few weeks ago, and then finally there was a ceasefire or whatever. But yet again, all these people who supposedly cared about Palestinian rights last year, completely dead silent, not a single peep about Palestine. So again, you see them supporting their Zionist publisher friends, but, you know, they will still preach about supporting people that they don't like. So I think the view should be, at least, you know, or my view is like, if you are going to be so preachy and so, you know, what's the word, just holier than thou, and act like you are perfect and then look down on people or shame people for buying games from a certain publisher, then really you should strive to be perfect yourself in that regard. And you should not be supporting Zionist publishers, because clearly Zionism is a human rights issue. It's not a political issue. So all of this talk about inclusivity, it doesn't mean anything to me when these people are not completely inclusive. They've shown time and time again that their inclusivity extends to, you know, Black people, to East Asian people, and to people who are LGBTQ, you know, plus, and I guess women now, ever since, you know, the Roe versus Wade thing was overturned. But it does not seem to extend to Middle Easterners and Muslims. So we see that time and time again. So you know, I'm just, again, sick of the double standards and the hypocrisy, all this talk about inclusivity, when time and time again we see that inclusivity doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I mean, you know, Our Family Plays Games has this whole series about, you know, being inclusive, yet they're still being sponsored by a Zionist publisher. Like, that was their first sponsor. Burnt Island Games and KTBG was their first ever sponsor, and they still sponsor them, and you never see them say anything about Palestine and what is happening there. So if you're going to claim to be about all inclusivity and all human rights, then you really should be about it all, or else, you know, you're just virtue signaling for certain types of, you know, groups that you care about, and it just doesn't mean anything to me then at that point. I think it's just bullshit at that point. So I just wish people would stop preaching at others then and judging others if they are so clearly not perfect themselves when it comes to inclusivity. So that's all I wanted to say about that. Because I know that, you know, I know people get sick of me pointing out double standards, but I also have received a lot of comments where people said that they do want me to point it out whenever I see it. So this is just me pointing it out yet again, because yet again, it still happens. It's going to continue happening. And I know that there's a game coming out about Iran. So that designer, the designer of Cascadia, Randy Flynn, he designed a game about Iran, and you know, all those people hate me. The designer of Randy Flynn, you know, he unfriended me on Facebook after that whole Burnt Island issue with Palestine, and you know, so, and he, you know, all these people think I'm dangerous, so obviously I'm not going to get to review his game about Iran, which is going to be quite ironic considering that I am the only board game reviewer in this space who has any ethnic, you know, cultural ties to the country of Iran, and I'm not going to be one who gets to review that game. So because of their, you know, shitty opinions about me, which have no basis, you know, they are just completely unfounded. But what can you do? You know, if someone has shitty opinions about you, there's really not much you can do. You just have to just keep on going out and doing what you do and living your life to the best, right? And to the fullest that you can. So that's what I try to do. And, you know, so I'm really excited that I'm moving into a bigger place so that I can hopefully make better content. And all these people who just repeatedly try to get rid of me, I'm just never ever going to let them, you know, win. so yeah. So I don't have any questions from you guys, but I feel like I should leave a question for you to answer. So let me think of one on the spot here, which is not easy to do usually. I really should have come up with a question in advance. Oh, actually, I have a question, but I'm probably not going to get an answer in time. So I am actually going to Connecticut this weekend because I'm meeting up with some of my law school friends for a reunion. I haven't seen them in a few years, so I'm super excited to meet up with my law school friends. I went to law school in Connecticut. So they are actually the people who introduced me to board gaming. So it was my friends John and Jess, who I guess had played Catan when I had never played Catan. This was a long time ago, so this was back in like 2010. I started law school in August of 2010, so 12 years ago. Yeah, and they introduced me to Catan, and then I got hooked immediately, and I wanted to play again and again, and they just did not want to play with me. So we played, I think, a total of 3 times, and then they were like, we're done, no more board games. So yeah, so I'm gonna see them this weekend, and I was thinking of taking something like small that non-board gamers would enjoy. And I'm trying to wonder what that game would be. Something portable that they would enjoy playing. Oh, you know what I think I'll take? I think I'll take So Clover with me. I think that would be a fun game that they would enjoy because it's like a word game, and I think that would be super fun. I think I'll take So Clover with me. Yeah, but like if you were meeting up with friends, like old friends, and you just wanted to like see if you could get them to play something, what game would you pull out? You know, to introduce them to. Let me know in the comments below. And until next time, guys, bye.